Hi there everybody, it's Rarity here from inkybutterfly.com. Thank you so much for joining me again today for another card making video. This one is for our Project Share project blog hop. We have an embossing theme for our hop this time around, and yeah, it's September already, so this year has just flown by. So as always, the other ladies in the project share, they'll also be creating their projects, so please do hop along to the video description. There's a link to my blog, and then you can see all the other lovely projects that the other ladies are going to be doing with this embossing theme. Okay, so for today, I'm going to be using one of my favourite techniques, but of course for embossing we could use embossing folders, or you can do some sort of scoring and stuff like that. So loads of different ways that we can interpret this, but my favourite thing in the world is heat embossing. I really love heat embossing, it's like magic, and I like the emboss resist technique. But this one, this technique is called the Jacob's coat technique, and I don't think I have shared this with you before. It's not a new method or technique. It's something that's been around for ages, but I don't think I've ever done it with you guys. So this is my interpretation of that. But basically, we've got a background panel on there, and I've used 3 inks. I've used Lemon Lolly, Balmy Blue, and Bubble Bath. So it's quite subtle. Okay, onto some white cardstock, covered it over with the heat embossing, and then gone over the top in black, and that's resisted that black ink, so you get that wonderful look coming through there. Okay, so traditionally this uses black ink, but actually you can use any dark ink, as long as you're kind of covering that background and then letting that resist come through. You can use anything. Okay, so we're going to do a variation of this. I don't think I've seen this combination around, so I'm going to try something. I haven't actually done it in advance, don't know how well it's going to work, but let's go for it. Okay, so we're using Labelled with Love on here, so I use this little cluster of presents on this one. Okay, and we're going to use the little flowers for our card today. Okay, and we're going to do a selection of pinks on the background layer. So we're going to bring in one of the mini layers. This is 3 by 4 3/4. Okay, and this is what we're going to build our colour onto. So we'll need some scrap paper. Okay, and then we're going to apply some colour, and we're going to go with some pinks. Okay, so I've got Bubble Bath, well, pinks and purples actually, and I've got Melon Mambo, so we've got a pale pink and a bright pink, and then we're going to offset it a little bit with some Fresh Freesia. So we've got that mix of colours. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to start with the lightest one, just because. Okay, and I'm going to use a blending brush. Now, ideally, I'd have used a sponge dauber to get like smaller spots. You could use a small blending brush if you wanted to get some smaller splodges or whatever as well. In fact, shall we do that? Let me get the small blending brushes out. Oh, let me just grab the little thing. My small blending brushes I keep in one of these things. I've seen them around the place, available on, you know, that shop that sells everything and various other places. Okay, but for the little brushes, this is quite good. I've got something different for my big brushes, which I'm going to now put out the way. Let me just pop those over there, because I've now decided I'm going to do something different, because that's how these work sometimes. So purple brush, dark pink, light pink. Okay, so let's use our small blending brush so that we can get just sort of spots of colour. Okay, and then obviously we can go back in if we want more in different areas. Okay, but a sponge dauber is perfect because you can get those really nice tight spots if you want to. I'm trying not to make it too even, but it's very hard to do that. Our human brains like patterns. So that's our bubble bath. Let's do some Melon Mumbo. That's really bright ink as well, so I just want to go a little bit easier on this one, and sort of next to some of these other blobs. So we want to fill the card up with colour, and I'm not worried about all these lines and smushy bits and stuff. With this technique, it's quite forgiving. You don't have to have a perfect blended background to make this look good. I think we'll come back in with some bubble bath. We've got enough of that. Just intensify that a little bit. Okay, so you can mix and match this and add and take away and all that kind of stuff. So we might still come back to the bubble bath, and then we'll bring in some fresh freesia just to sort of give some contrast here and there. Okay, and if it looks a mess at the moment, that's fine. I promise it'll all look good in the end. I did worry when I was doing my one of my samples. I was like, oh dear, I don't think this is going to work. But actually, it turned out all right on the night. I feel like we need some up here. Okay, and now I'm just going to fill in the gaps now with the bubble bath. I could leave some white bits if you want. Entirely your choice there. I'm just going to use some scrap paper to hold that down, because that pink ink will stain your fingers. So I don't really want to go to work tomorrow with bright pink fingers. Okay, so we'll just fill that in, and you can go over things, blend it in, add more colours. You don't have to do spots, you can do stripes. You don't have to use ink, as in ink pads and brushes or daubers. You could use markers and do something very graphic on the background. Kind of depends on what look you're going for, and maybe, you know, what kind of image you want to stamp with as well. So you have to bear in mind that when you're stamping, you're going to have an opening almost, and what's going to show through. Okay, so you might want to do a little bit of experimenting on some scrap paper or something, and try a few things out. So obviously that's going to be really, really wet with all that ink on there. So we need to let that dry, or you can blast it with a heat tool and whatever. So we'll just give that a minute, get it dry, and then we'll come back and do the stamping. Okay, so that's mostly dry now. So I've got to bring out my Embossing Editions kit. I've got our reversible tweezers, our little brush, our embossing buddy. So because this might still be a little bit tinsy bit damp, this embossing buddy will help eliminate any dampness, fingerprints, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so just pop that on there, and I like to just brush off the excess a little bit. Okay, and then I'll just flick off that. Okay, and then we'll use our clear Versamark ink and our little flowers, and we'll start stamping over those. We need some clear embossing powder. Okay, right. So this is going to be difficult for you guys to see on camera, because we're just stamping with clear ink. And then the other thing that you won't be able to see is that I have got my head in a very funny position, because I am trying to angle the light, or my view in the light, so that I can see where I have stamped. I don't particularly want to go over the same place twice because it can look a bit untidy. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so just tilt it in the light so you can see where your images are going. I don't know whether you can see that or not. You might be able to. It's hard for me to tell. Okay, and obviously we're going to excuse me, cover that piece of cardstock. And if you are struggling to see it, the other thing you can do is actually just bung the powder on top. So let me just do that then. So if I bring in the tray, and we'll put our, I wrote that on top by the way, it doesn't come with that on there, but because I keep them in a drawer, I like the top labelled so I can just pick out the one that I want. Okay, so we're going to tip that off. You don't need a lot of powder, you just need enough to cover the design. I think we've still got a bit of dampness on there because there's a great big hunk of powder that's got stuck on there. So I'm just going to give that a sharp flick. Try and get some of that off. And if it's not in the middle of the design, you can use the brush and just sweep away anything that isn't supposed to be there. Okay. And now I can see where that powder is as well. It might be still difficult for you guys to see, but that helps me now to carry on filling in that that cardstock. Like so. Lovely. Let's pop that away and add powder to the rest of that now. So this is our new Wow powder that we have now. So Stampin' Up! Using a different supplier now. Okay, just trying to flick that a little bit. There's just a little bit of a damp spot, I think, which has just caught a little bit of the powder. But that will probably do now. Okay. And now, because we've got it in this tray, we can just funnel that back into the pot. And we can get that all heat set with our heat tool. And I'm just going to hold on to that in a strategic place. I'm going to go about there. And we're going to use our heat tool. So this is going to be super loud on the microphone, so if you want to turn down your sound, or if you like the sort of white noise, then enjoy. Okay, back in a sec. Okay, and that has bent and warped beautifully, hasn't it? Okay, so just let it cool for a second, just so that embossing powder will cool down quite quickly, but whilst it's still warm, you might want to just pop a block on it to help it dry a little bit flat. So I'm going to pop 2 of them on there, and we'll just let that, say dry, I mean cool down, right? So a bit like sort of straightening your hair, isn't it, I guess? You blast it and then leave it, get it all hot, and hopefully it'll straighten out. Okay, cardstock wise then, I'm going to use a this is Berry Burst, and I've got a layer of Bubble Bath. So this is 1/4 of an inch taller and wider than the actual panel itself. But what I actually need is one of those labels. So we need this label from the set. Okay, so I want to stamp this nice little outline, but I'm going to do it in the middle of this cardstock, okay, to conserve it. Okay, so this is a nice little tip. So I'm going to take the I'm going to use Sunberry Burst. What shall I use in the middle? Oh, actually, I don't want to stamp on that. I want to just die cut a piece out of that. I want to stamp on the white. Where did I put my white? Hey, what a wally. I didn't get out the spare bit. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a white scrap to do my stamping on, but I forgot to get one out. That's why I'm confused. Okay, have I got a scrap of cardstock that's big enough? Because you only need a scrap. Just need enough to be able to stamp out that that label, or punch out that label. I guess if this fits over the top, then it will. Yep. So we'll use Berry Burst, okay, to stamp that outline. Ink off there, and I think let's use the Freesia for the actual words. Okay, probably should have been the other way around, but you know, you do the colours you want. And then we've got the labelled with love dies. So you get 3 dies in this cute little packet. So I can die cut that one, and I can die cut a separate one from the centre of the bubble bath section. So let's flip that over, shall we? So that's got its cut inside down. Line that up. And tape that in place, and we'll run those 2 through. So this bundle, just to remind you, this is kind of aiming, we're using this technique. The this bundle, you can choose to have dies, the set of 3 dies, or a punch. Doesn't stop you obviously buying the other bit separately, so if you decide to go for the dies and think that you want the punch, you can always order that later. So it's kind of horses for courses, really. It's either the quick handy punch, or oh, I've got 3 that I can do at the same time. So they both have advantages, so it's up to you which you prefer, or you can just go for both. Okay, so we've got our stamped sentiment there, and this one we're going to just chop in half. It doesn't need to be perfect, just chop it in half. And we're going to make a faux sort of layer on that by adding that to the back of this. You've seen me do this before. So just add that add this. Okay, and that makes that a little bit bigger. Okay, thinking I might have, I probably would have chosen different colours if I'd have thought a bit more about it, but you know, it is what it is. Okay. Of course, you can mix this up as much as you like, and then what we're going to do is have some dimensionals sort of at the top and the bottom, because we're going to put some twine around this. So I'm going to use the minis so that we've got plenty of space to fit that in. Okay, so hopefully this is dried well enough, or sorry, cooled down enough. Okay, but we haven't finished with this. We've got all these bits ready to go, but we need to do something else. We need to put our dark ink over the top, and we are going to use Berry Burst for that, hence the Berry Burst card base. Okay, so I've just re-inked this, so it's going to be really nice and dark. You can get really inky and just go direct to paper with this if you want to, okay, or you can do it in a bit more of a controlled manner if you don't want to do that, and just load this up with a brush. Okay, so just going back to my larger brushes here, and we're going to absolutely smother this with ink. And you'll be thinking, oh no. Okay, so I say it looks like a mess before it looks good. A bit like some of these watercolour techniques, it's like, oh, not sure. And then all of a sudden the magic happens and it all comes out brilliantly. Okay, so that's our dark ink over the top of that. You can use Blackberry Bliss or anything like that. Okay, and then just to brighten up that embossing, we will just use a slightly damp cloth. This is a very well loved sort of lint-free cloth. Just going to spritz that with just a little bit of water. It's just barely damp. Okay, and I'm just going to wipe over that and just lift off some of that excess ink, which brightens up those flowers but doesn't pull away from the background. Okay, and that is what we end up with. Okay, so obviously that's wet again. Okay, so you're probably going to want to let that dry a little bit in between time, so we can do that. Got all our other bits and pieces doing, and then once it's fully dried we can just come back and assemble the card. Okay, so the panel's dry now, so we can layer it up onto our bubble bath layer. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of extra adhesive on there though, just to make sure that sits nice and flat. Just make sure I've got that border right, because it's a deeper border than I normally do. So line up those 3 edges and then pop that down. Okay, and no one's going to know that that was there once it's all stuck down. Okay, now before we pop it onto the card base, we're going to add a little bit of baker's twine. So I'm just going to get this out of the Baker's Twine Essentials. So almost out on this packet, but you get 5 spools in crumb cake, basic white, very vanilla, black and grey granite. Okay, so we will, let's just grab some tape. I want a tail so that we can tie a knot, and then just wrap this round three times, like so. and then chop that off. It's probably way more than I need, but let's just go with that. Just make sure that's secure on the back. Oops, there we go. And we can just tie this. So I'm just going to just do a simple knot on this one. And just stick it over there. So the other thing with these, you know, these reversible tweezers, where did I put them there? When you haven't got somebody to put a finger on your knot, you can use the tweezers to hold that secure while you do the rest. Okay. And then we can pop that up on some dimensionals to accommodate, you know, because otherwise we're going to get a lump where that twine is across the back. And then get those off. Oh dear. There we go. Let's pop that on there. Like so. And then we can pop our sentiment over the top. So just leave that gap along the middle, which means that that's going to sit flat on the card. Okay, so there's room here to make it central or off to the thingy, but I think I'm just going to go with the middle there. About there. Okay, let's trim that off because they're too long now, and then you can sort of fray those if you want to as well. Give it a different look, and then we'll finish it off with some gems, which I have put down somewhere. There they are. What are these called? Purple fine shimmer gems. Okay, so I believe we've got Berry Burst, Gorgeous Grape and Highland Heather, roughly. So of course those Berry Burst ones are going to be perfect for this. So let's, there it is, take your pick tool or whatever equivalent you have. So this is going to be very tone on tone, which is fine. Oh, let's not have it stuck to my finger, shall we not? Oh, I've displaced the glue dot that's on the back of there, so let's just accidentally bent it over as I picked it up. Oops, daisy. There we go. All done. So a couple of big ones, some little ones. Like so. So that's very subtle because obviously the colours on the card are quite similar, but it's kind of nice because you kind of get that shimmer as you sort of, you know, twiddle the card in different light and stuff. Okay, so that is using that Jacob's coat kind of style method with a different colour palette altogether. Okay, so traditionally it would be black, like so. Okay, so subtle colours on this one, gone over in black. I used shades of pink and purple on this one and went over it in Berry Burst. What do you think of this one then? I used Brights on this one and went over with Night of Navy. Layer is Misty Moonlight. Okay. And then I did this one with the Sparkling Snowflakes. Okay, and I did like an ombre blend with Summer Splash, which is the layer, Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock. Went over it with Pretty Peacock, so you've got almost tone on tone, sort of, just, you know, sort of heat embossing, and then shading through and having those brighter snowflakes in the middle. And I used some of the little die cuts out of this die set, which I can't remember the name of, but I think it's one of the online exclusives, but I can't remember. Anyway, the die cut that, used the Summer Splash ribbon and everything on that one to get a completely different look again. Okay, so same sort of, you know, principle. Colour the background, heat emboss with clear, go over the top with dark ink, and you can get some very different results. That's my favourite. Thought that turned out really well. But you can really have a play with this. What about Shaded Spruce, or even Cherry Cobbler, or Copper Clay? All those dark colours to go over the top. Okay, so that's my embossing themed card project for today. As I say, please do like, subscribe, comment, share, all that lovely stuff. Pop along to the description, click on the link to my blog post, which will take you to all the other ladies projects as well. And again, you know, give them some like, shares and all that kind of stuff as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it and it's given you some ideas. Do stay safe, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.